Louis Cardinals baseball. It is an absolutely gorgeous day here in Jupiter, Florida. The fans are here. They have been yearning for baseball, and so have we. The boys of summer are back, and we've got baseball back. It's the Miami Marlins and the St. Louis Cardinals. Welcome to Cardinals baseball. That's Rick Horton. I'm Dan McLaughlin. We're at Roger Dean Stadium. It's the first of 15 spring training games right here on Fox Sports Midwest. And while a lot of Major League Baseball has been quiet this offseason with trades and some of the offseason signings, the Cardinals were not. Andrew Miller, he was signed, and the Cardinals made one of the biggest offseason moves in Paul Goldschmidt.
Well, Dan, I always love spring training, and I know you do as well, but it's even better when you've got some new toys. And the Cardinals got a couple of all-stars added to their roster. There is a lot of buzz going on in Cardinal Nation.
How about those two guys? How do they fit into the fold for the Cardinals?
Well, they're fitting in already. Miller's the guy that's going to be really a guy that can handle middle of the game or end of the game as a left-hander. The Cardinals have wanted an Andrew Miller-type player for a long time, so they get Andrew Miller, and Goldschmidt has been one of the best players in all of baseball throughout his career. Great to have him.
He was so good a year ago. He gets the assignment today, the first spring training game. Miles Mikolas, also Mike Shildt says today he is going to get the opening day assignment.
18-game winner a year ago. We were just getting to learn who Miles Mikolas was this time last spring, but he had a terrific season, and he has a great honor starting on that opening day.
Miles Mikolas going today. The former Cardinal, Sandy Alcantara, gets the start for the Miami Marlins. You've been waiting for it. We've been waiting for it. Baseball is back on Fox Sports Midwest. Lineups, first pitch, next. Back at Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium here in Jupiter, Florida. Rick Horton, Dan McLaughlin, the Cardinals and the Marlins. And there's a look at Cardinals manager Mike Shildt. Went 41-28 last year. Became then the permanent manager, and the Cardinals almost snuck into the playoffs, Rick Horton.
And they did it in such a great fashion with a lot of young arms carrying the day in that August month. And, you know, Mike Shildt has been talking about the buzz that he feels. We're talking about it. Fans are feeling it. But so is Mike Shildt. He's very excited about the prospects for 2019.
I got to say it. If you're at home saying it to us, man, it's good to see those guys. Believe us, it's good to be back.
Oh, you bet.
There's the Cardinal lineup for today. Many of the regulars in there. Wong and Martinez, congratulations to him. We'll get into a contract extension momentarily. DeYoung, Ozuna, Jerko Bader, Adolis Garcia, Andrew Kisner, and Rangel Ravelo, who is a very good hitter. And you're going to hear a lot about him throughout spring. First pitch of spring is hit down the left field line. Over to get it, Austin Dean. One pitch and one out, and we're underway. Sandy Alcantara, part of the Marcell Ozuna deal. If they can get him to throw strikes, he could be awfully good.
Yeah, he was in AAA most of the season last year. He did make 6 starts at the big league level, and he's still their number 3 prospect, Dan, and it's because he has that electric fastball. Throwing strikes, of course, as you mentioned, part of his next level. He has a really good changeup to go along with that high-octane fastball.
Jose Martinez signs a 2-year extension that was announced at around 10 o'clock local time. He led the Cardinals in batting average last year at .305 and in hits. And he finished 7th in the National League in batting leaders. People forget he was a guy that really came through in the clutch. 29 hits with runners in scoring position at 2 outs, and that led the entire league. Can flat out hit. That's strike 2, 1 ball and 2 strikes on Jose Martinez. Congratulations to him.
Well deserved. He was talked about in the morning meeting today by Mike Shildt. Brought up the contract in front of his teammates, and he talked about just how important Jose is to this club. They gave him 2 standing ovations, his teammates. Imagine that. You get a nice contract, but you also have your teammates stand and applaud for you. Pretty good day for Jose.
A pitch taken just a bit low. It is a 3-man crew, the umpiring crew. It's Lance Barksdale behind home plate, Angel Hernandez, and Adam Beck. The umpires today, and they'll rotate
once runners do get on. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Jose Martinez. Always comes to the ballpark with a smile. That's it out of play.
Well, I'd smile too if I had the contact rate that he has and the hard hit contact rate that Jose Martinez has. That's why he was so dangerous last year. A lot of balls he was able to barrel up, not only balls that he pulls, but ones he hits the other way. He's a threat, no question about it.
He has put away the first baseman's mitt. He will be a guy that comes off the bench, as we know, very good pinch hitter. Did he hit the other way and out of play?
Put it away or throw it away? What do you think he did?
Maybe burned it. If you saw him field, he may have burned it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, he's not a bad right fielder. I'm not going to say he's a Gold Glover, but certainly better in the outfield than he was at first.
A lot of trade talk with his name right in the middle of it. Never really understood it. And there's a strikeout of Jose Martinez, as well as he can hit. And you can understand why teams would be interested in him. But to me, he's such a good fit for the Cardinals, too. There's 2 away.
Well, a good fit for a team that needs a designated hitter, and it makes me feel a little queasy to say it, but it could be a National League reality a few years down the road, as early as next year. And so the Cardinals signing Martinez for 2 years might be a good deal for that purpose.
There's shortstop Paul DeYoung at 241 last year. Remember, spent some time on the DL, and I can say the DL because the disabled list last year, you could still say disabled list, but this year the name changes. You can't say DL, Rick.
It's the injured list.
That's right.
And I think just an attempt by Major League Baseball to just be a little more sensitive in terms of that. Really, that phrase that's been around since for 150 years, probably. The game is celebrating, by the way, 150 years this year, and the players will have patches to commemorate that. But it is the injured list, and it'll take a while for us to get used to saying IL instead of DL.
So it's the injured list, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes on the Cardinals shortstop Paul DeYoung. Beautiful day here at Roger Dean Stadium in Jupiter. Let's hit back and foul. Marcelo Ozuna on deck. Sandy Alcantara, they pencil him in potentially as a number 3 starter. Jose Urena would be their ace, if you will. Dan Straley. They have Pablo Lopez, Wei-Yin Chen. Trevor Richards would be another one that would be in the conversation. Caleb Smith. This is going to be a long season, any way you look at it, for the rebuilding Miami Marlins.
Rainey will start opening day for the 2nd year in a row. Don Mattingly's already said that, and it's just I think it's a smart thing for managers to name their opening day starter early in spring. I always wondered why the intrigue. The guy deserves it. Just get him ready for that.
Name him, move on. Mike Schilt did that this morning, naming today's starter for the Cardinals, Miles Mikolas. The 1-2. And a pair of strikeouts for Sandy Alcantara. Miles Mikolas was fantastic last year for the Cardinals. He was an all-star. Returning to the States, the Jupiter native to the mound for the first time in spring training. Miles Mikolas coming up when we come back. During the commercial break, he was complaining about the Cardinals offense.
Well,
we're a half inning into the season.
A bit tongue-in-cheek, but I will say to counterbalance that, the pace of play has been great.
All right, Miles Mikolas, 18-4 a year ago, and boy, was he great.
Oh, my goodness. And a year ago, Dan, when we first saw Miles Mikolas, he did not have a very good spring training, an ERA close to 5. And there was talk at the time, well, I guess he's the Cardinals' 5th starter, and we'll see how that goes. But he became a lot more than that.
He was outstanding, and it was about this time, as you mentioned, last year. He had a couple of early starts in spring. He was beat up, and we openly were wondering, would he be able to adjust back to Major League Baseball coming from Japan? And not only did he make that adjustment, but he was just terrific and became an all-star and really became one of the aces of the Cardinals staff. This is Miguel Rojas at the plate for Miami, and a breaking ball is taken outside, and it's 2 balls and 1 strike. It's Rojas at the top, and then Brian Anderson, one of the top rookies a year ago. Neil Walker, the former Pirate, here in the first inning for the Miami Marlins, and they have switched their uniforms this year. A ground ball hit left side, and that's gloved by Jed Jerko, 1 away. Cardinal defense, as we mentioned, many of the regulars in there today, and this is a Miami home game, so the Cardinals, the visitors. On the infield, Jerko, DeYoung, Wong, Rebello, Kisner behind the plate, Michaelis on the mound. In the outfield, Garcia, Bader, and Martinez. Like to see many of the regulars for Mike Shildt even in game number 1 of spring.
Well, it's really a double-edged sword for Mike Shildt because he wants to see the regulars play and get ready, but he wants to take a look at some of the younger players too. And I think it's a pretty good mix in this game. We have Odolis Garcia in left, and he's going to be a fun guy to watch as he made maybe another leap from the player we saw last spring.
There's Brian Anderson, 4th in the balloting for the National League Rookie of the Year. He can play right field, also third base. He's at third base today, and that's where Don Mattingly is talked about primarily playing him this season. Hit .273, 11 home runs, drove in 60 plus. And in that Rookie of the Year balloting, it was Ronald Acuna Jr. for the Braves winning it, edging out Juan Soto. And it was Walker Buehler, the really good pitcher for the Dodgers, Brian Anderson, then Jack Flaherty and Harrison Bader.
I think Anderson was a name that probably wouldn't roll off the average baseball fan's tongue, but if you followed him, and every time we saw him a lot in spring, of course, but he just looks like a good hitter. He just really uses the right side of the field very well. And he's going to be part of this new look Marlins team. Marlins went out, Dan, and signed a number of older players, including Neil Walker, who will bat next. And they're trying to find some combination that will get them a little bit better than 63 wins and 98 losses.
They also signed Victor Mesa. That is the top prospect that they have, and they spent a bunch of money to get him. And there's the first strikeout for Miles Michaelis. Number 1 prospect, Victor Mesa. We'll talk about him throughout the telecast today, and he got him to chase on a pitch on the outside corner.
That's the slider for Michaelis, and one of the astounding things about his season last year, less walks than starts. That is ridiculous.
This day and age,
yes,
you don't see that.
With players taking a lot of pitches and trying to get the on-base percentage up, he has learned how to get strike 1 and then work off the corners from there.
Rojas, Anderson, and Walker, then O'Brien, Castro, Alfaro, Brinson, Dean, and Herrera. There's a fly ball lifted out to deep left field. Going back, Odolis Garcia. Wind spins him around. He makes the catch on the track in a 1-2-3 inning for Miles Michaelis. Coming up, Ozuna, Jerko, and Bader. No score. We'll be enjoying Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest. This is the first of 15 games we will be televising throughout spring training. And we were told that ticket sales from the folks back home in St. Louis, there has been a buzz. You've got Ozuna, you've got Goldschmidt, good nucleus coming back. And fans are excited about this team.
And a number of good deals that are available for families. Dan, I think that's always been the strength of Major League Baseball, is it's a family sport. Parents bring their kids, grandparents bring their kids, and teach them the game. It's a very different game than other professional sports, and you just have to enjoy the sunshine, the kind of relaxed pace of baseball. It's part of what makes it special.
Just saw a shot of Andrew Miller. The Cardinals, you know, in my mind, they had to go out and get a bat. They got a big one in Goldschmidt. They had to address the left side of their bullpen, and they did that with one of the best in all of baseball, Andrew Miller.
He had a tough year last year, but injuries played into that, and the hope is that he bounces back to that all-star level performance that he had the seasons before that. And I don't mean just a normal all-star. I mean the nastiest reliever from the left side in the American League, and that's a pretty tough league.
Cardinals are going to be cautious this spring with Andrew Miller, not so much with his arm. It's more about his knee. Mike Schilt talking about that the other day. He had some issues with that last year, and he fills a role, according to Mike Schilt, that is so versatile and really has changed what you think about for Mike Maddox coming into this year for bullpen guys. Going back to when you were pitching, you think about it, Ricky. You dealt with, and Andrew Miller will not be a starter, but you dealt with a role that could be 2 innings out of a bullpen, or maybe face one lefty, or be a closer. Andrew Miller has done all that, and that's something that he could do this year.
Yeah, and he's done that in a kind of blow you away type style, though. That's the other thing about him as opposed to the normal guy that does that. I mean, he can go a lot of different ways and still get, 3 strikeouts an inning. I mean, he has the nasty slider. He's got an interesting arm angle, which we'll see as the season progresses. But not surprising to me that they're going to be careful with him, as you mentioned, because of the knee. Your lower half really dictates what your upper half does.
Pulled foul by Ozuna.
And every Cardinal fan knows the story of Dizzy Dean. That's how his career ended. Got hit on the foot with a line drive and then ended up hurting his arm because of it.
Marcell Ozuna, we saw that he was compromised a year ago with the shoulder, and so throwing has been an issue here in the early stages of camp, and it was all of last season. And the Cardinals are not paying him to throw, they're paying him to hit. And this far, hitting, he's looked good. And as we progress, it'll be interesting to see how the shoulder continues to get better after the offseason. John Mozeliak flew to the Dominican 3 weeks ago, checked on that progress, and so far, all systems go. And Ozuna is able to be the first base runner of the spring camp for either side.
I wonder if Ozuna and Paul DeYoung, to name a couple of Cardinal players, might be the beneficiaries of having Paul Goldschmidt in the lineup instead of having to be the guy. And that was Ozuna a lot last year. We talked about him being the thump in the middle of the lineup. And then DeYoung hit third an awful lot last year. But now with Goldschmidt, you can be a supportive player, not necessarily the guy. Might be good for them.
Now Jed Jerko. And right now for Jed Jerko, I would assume, Ricky, it's a role that comes off the bench with Carpenter at third base. Goldschmidt will be at first, and he could spell certainly Colton Wong at second, maybe even DeYoung at short. And there's been talk that he would play potentially some outfield even here at camp.
If you're a bench player in 2019, that means you're a guy that doesn't necessarily start the game, but you'll probably end up coming in the 5th inning. I mean, when the lineups turn around, the starting pitcher's out, they switch from a righty to a lefty. I mean, he's going to get his chance to play. There's no question about it.
A ball and a strike. A lot of room on that right side of the infield. And that's taken for a strike by Jed Jerko.
Jed has said it's his bucket list dream to get a chance to play every position. Of course, we've had that with Jose Oquendo before as a Cardinal, and he'd love to do that as well.
And a swing and a miss by Jerko. Third strikeout for Sandy Alcantara, and he'll do that. He'll rack up the strikeouts if he is in this rotation for the Miami Marlins, and it brings in Harrison Bader.
He's hit 97 a couple of times already this afternoon, so he's in midseason form. That last pitch at 95, really live arm. Danny, I remember I was standing next to you the first time I saw Alcantara throw over at the minor league fields for the Cardinals, and it was, well, it was just a big wow.
Yeah,
watching him throw.
He did get a call up at the end of last season, but the issue for him, getting that fastball over for strike one. So pitching behind many times. He walked more than 3 batters per 9 innings in 2018 at the major league level. And that's a ground ball that's pulled foul by Bader. And that number increased towards the tail end 6 walks per 9. So he had a 34 inning sample in the big leagues. He's only 23, and we've seen so many cases of guys that get called up to the big leagues and just figuring it out, you know, trying to get strike one over and pitching ahead in the count and maybe pulling back on the velocity to get ahead in the count. Pulled foul again by Bader, and that's strike 2. 0-2 on Harrison, who a lot of high expectations this year for the Cardinals center fielder. And I think when you look at Harrison, everybody knows defensively he's going to be fine. He's going to be elite, maybe a Gold Glover. It'll be what he does at the plate, cutting down on strikeouts, getting on base.
He's going to run the bases well once he gets on base, but cutting down on strikeouts, that's his next level.
Ground ball, base hit on the 0-2 pitch. And he did it on a breaking pitch. That's good to see. And runners at first and second for St. Louis. The first hit of spring for the Cardinals.
Boy, we just had to be patient, Dan, didn't we, to get this Cardinal offense rolling?
Yeah, you were complaining. You were complaining.
I'm ready for some action. And Bader's going to supply a lot of action this year, and hitting that curveball or that breaking ball is going to be an important part of his 2019.
Adolis Garcia, as we saw, can play all 3 outfield spots for the Cardinals and got a call up last year to St. Louis. As he appeared in 21 games for the Cardinals last year, had 17 at bats, and did pick up that first ever major league hit.
You know, Adolis is wearing some padding on his arms, but I can tell you that a lot of those arms, that's Adolis Garcia. Both he and Tyler O'Neill were on the same caravan with me, and his arms might be bigger. He may be.
Oh, he's shredded. He's ripped.
As strong as Tyler O'Neill, and that's saying something.
Runners at first and second, and the first pitch taken for a ball. It's always good to remind folks the story of these players back for another season. Garcia played 5 years on the Cuban national team and did win the league's MVP award all the way back in 2016. The Cardinals signed him for $2.5 million after he defected, and that was a push by the Cardinals. And there's a liner that's caught in left. Ozuna back to the bag at second, and Bader, though, is doubled up at first base. And a mistake by Harrison Bader. Wanted to take that chance at first base, and the Cardinals run into a double play. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you in part by Budweiser. Wherever legendary MLB moments happen, Budweiser will be there. And by Steak and Shake. Come into Steak and Shake and get 4 meals with 4 items for $4. 4-4-4. Get more for 4. Only at Steak and Shake. We were talking about Adolis Garcia breaking away from Cuba. The same could be said for family member of Peter O'Brien, who's trying to make the club for the Marlins, and there's a line out. But he's an interesting story too. 1 pitch, 1 out. And so many of these guys in spring training have so many stories in Major League Baseball, but he's born and raised in South Florida, son of a Cuban refugee, Ricky, and trying to make a name for himself. His mother, Mercedes, graduated at the age of 18 from the Cuban National Ballet. Now think about that. And that is one of the country's premier ballet companies that is heavily backed by the government, and she became a soloist, and that's long before the Cuban baseball players took the world by storm. The Cuban National Ballet was and still is the pride of the country, and she defected from Cuba, and that's how Peter O'Brien got here to the country, with the ballet being the focal point. I mean, so these guys, the stories and the background that you learn in spring about these players is truly unique.
There are amazing stories. The Cardinals have 64 players in camp. I mean, they all lined up down the first baseline before our opening pitch today, and every one of them has a story. Maybe not as dramatic as Peter O'Brien's, but everybody's got a story of why they learned to love baseball and how their family introduced them to the game, and their friends in high school, their coaches, their college career, whatever it may be, and the person that maybe gave them that one pitch to help them get better, and the time that maybe the family member talked them out of quitting when they felt like they were done.
That's right.
And everybody's got a story.
That's why I love spring training and hearing the stories of these players. So Peter O'Brien trying to make the club, and now here's Starlin Castro. Yeah, that's right, Starlin Castro for our Cardinal fans. Hard to believe when I say this, it may shock some. This is year 10 in the big leagues for Starlin Castro as he grounds out to third. And Castro is out number 2 for Miles Michaelis here in this second inning. 10 years now for Starlin Castro. This will be number 10 in the big leagues.
That's a stunning number, and so is the number 22, Dan, which is the number of years the Cardinals have been here in Jupiter.
Wow. Do you know who delivered the first ever pitch for the Cardinals?
I don't.
The first official game, first pitch, was delivered by a teammate of mine in high school and college, one Cliff Polite. Cliff Polite.
I did not know that.
I bet he's watching right now.
Cliff is a wonderful part of the Cardinals fantasy camp. So he was down here a couple of weeks ago when we were here for a week with all of our fantasy campers, and everybody loves Cliff.
Good guy. Jorge Alfaro. He was picked up a couple of weeks ago in the JT Realmuto deal as the Marlins were dealing some of the top prospects last few years. When you think about Christian Yelich, you think about Stanton, Ozuna now with the Cardinals, and Realmuto dealt to the Phillies, and Alfaro comes from the Phillies now to Miami. Phillies apparently the cusp, if you believe some of the rumors and writers, of trying to pick up Bryce Harper, and Harper is a Vegas resident. And their ownership group was flying out there again to meet with Bryce Harper this weekend.
They may be on the cusp. I think it's important to say that's going to be an expensive cusp.
Oh boy. Manny Machado signing 10 years, $300 million with the Padres, and still unsigned Bryce Harper, and still unsigned many good players.
Several good players. Yeah, I think there may have been a few teams waiting to see whether they were going to be able to weigh in heavily enough on Machado and Harper, and then after that maybe they'll go to the next level and sign some of the other available players. But you can make an all-star team out of the players that are unsigned at the moment.
Ground ball hit to second, softly hit. There's Colton Wong, and Alfaro is out number 3. So 6 up and 6 down for Miles Michaelis. 2019 season has great giveaways all season long, featuring 6 jersey giveaways, including 2 embroidered jerseys, the adult and kids alternate blue jersey, and more. Tickets to some of the jersey giveaways and game dates through the 10-game jersey pack are on sale now. Buy them as a single game ticket. Do it right now. Cardinals.com. No score, and we are underway for the 2019 season. And the Marlins now go to their bullpen. Left-hander is in, and that's the lefty Adam Conley, and we've seen him used both in the rotation for the Marlins and in their bullpen.
When he first came to the big leagues, they thought he would be a big part of their rotation going forward, but he has found a home in the bullpen. 52 games out of their pen this year, so they'll count on him heavily again. He started a couple of times against the Cardinals, as I recall, early in his career, and Cardinals got to him pretty well, but you always love having left-handers in your bullpen, and several of them.
We're going to see a lot of Andrew Kisner throughout this camp, with Yadier Molina coming off of cleanup surgery on his knee. Now Yadi will serve as the DH in not too long. I would say probably a couple of weeks. And so Kisner, who can hit, learning more behind the plate, is at the plate. And I say at the plate He's a guy that is a converted third baseman, now learning to catch, and a rapid rise in the Cardinals minor league system. A fly ball that's lifted into shallow right field. Coming on Peter O'Brien to make the catch, and there's one away. And it brings in Rangel Ravelo. And speaking of guys that can hit, he can hit.
300 average for his minor league career. He's 26 years old, so he hasn't gotten a shot at the big league level yet. But he's been a big part of those Memphis winning teams the past couple of seasons.
How about Memphis? Stubby Clapp serving as the first base coach, Mike Shilt's staff, and no longer the manager there. He is really the mayor of Memphis, so the folks in Memphis are going to miss him. The folks in St. Louis will enjoy him. Good guy, likable, has earned this promotion. There's a look at Stubby.
And it's his birthday today.
Happy birthday to Stubby. Celebration right there. PCL champions back-to-back with all the promotions, too, that Memphis had. Position players and, in particular, the pitching staff, and promoted to the big league club. And on the hands of Ravelo and fouled back, and it's 0-2.
Realize how hard it is, Dan, to be a AAA manager when you've got players who are on your team who wish they were in the big leagues. So they're a little grouchy about that, frankly. Managing in AAA is the hardest place to manage, in my view, because you've got young guys that want to get there, and you've got older players that wish they could go back there, and it's kind of a tense moment, and you have all that turnover that you have to deal with and keep everybody together.
A ball and 2 strikes. Ground ball hit to second. Out number 2. In these games using the designated hitters, so back to the top of the lineup and Colton Wong. Jack Flaherty has been warming up, so letting him the proper time to prepare as a starter, if you will. Only 23 pitches, by the way, for Miles Michaelis, so it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion that Flaherty would come in this game next inning. You know, the other day Mike Schilt was saying that these guys could go 40-45 pitches, so we'll see if Michaelis does go back out. 2 balls and no strikes.
I remember standing down in the bullpen a couple of years ago when Flaherty first had a chance to pitch in spring training games, and he was talking with then Cardinal coach Jason Simontachi, and he said, I don't know how to get ready like this. I'm a starter. And he was just like this situation. He's pitching second, and he said, well, how do I do that? When do I start throwing? So you don't really think about that, but if you're a creature of habit, which most players are, it's a little bit different for Jack Flaherty than a normal start that he's going to have hopefully 32-34 of in 2019.
He's got a chance to be just a monster out there.
He does.
And there's a walk for Colton Wong. Good to see that against a lefty. Cardinals' second walk of the day, and the other one was to Marcell Ozuna. It brings in Jose Martinez, who struck out his first time up. It's 2 innings by Sandy Alcantara, who struck out 3 and walked 1.
Chatted with Jose yesterday, and looking up at him, I feel like he got 4 inches taller in the offseason. He's just a monster. You just don't realize how big he is.
Did let his hair grow out.
That's
I don't know if
probably it.
Noticed that, but
that's part of it.
Didn't want to tell you that. But
no, I did recognize that, but he still has that infectious smile more than anything else, which is, I think, why his teammates love him.
You know, we talk about that, guys that come to the ballpark always smiling, laughing, having fun, the kinds of personalities that are boisterous, loud. It does add something to a long season.
It does, and I think if that's not your personality, you can't fake that.
Yeah.
So not everybody's going to be like that. You have to kind of accept the fact that there are different personalities in a clubhouse. But if you don't have a Jose Martinez, it's a long, long year.
And it's genuine with him.
Yes, 100%.
He told me, Ricky, that And I asked him at the trade deadline, I said, are you disappointed that you weren't traded? Because remember, at the time he had lost playing time. They removed him from first base, and he said, absolutely not. He said, this is the team that gave me my shot, and I wanted to stay here. I'm comfortable here. I'm okay with how they're using me. They know me. I know them, and I'm comfortable. A fly ball into right, and Martinez is 0 for 2. And for those that have just joined us, he did sign a 2-year extension this morning. Well, the day is over for Miles Michaelis. We're in the bottom of the third, and there's no score.
And a very typical Miles Michaelis outing. Watch how many of these pitches are down in the zone through strikes. Only 23 pitches, retiring all 6 batters he faced. A lot of weak contact as well. And Miles Michaelis pitching the way he did a season ago when he was a National League All-Star.
18-game winner last year, and now he turns it over to Jack Flaherty. Flaherty 8-9 a season ago, but what a rookie campaign in terms of the strikeouts, the nasty wipeout slider, and big things expected from him as opponents only hit 199 a season ago against Jack. And the first pitch to Lewis Brinson is taken for a strike here in the bottom of the third.
Just amazed every spring training, Dan, that seen in the last, let's say, 10 years, that players come out 100% ready to go. That first pitch by Flaherty, 96 miles an hour. Spring training at one point, and we'll probably have to go back 20 years to say this, was a time where players were only throwing fastballs and changeups the first time out, and they weren't even close to their regular velocity. It was more just, well, let's get this kind of going nice and easy. But they throw to live hitters now before game 1 of spring training, and on game 1 they are attempting to be at midseason form.
Popped up to the right side, and Ravello giving chase, and it's out of play. Lewis Brinson was part of the Christian Yelich deal, came over from Milwaukee, struck out nearly 30% of the time and only drew 17 walks. Played in 109 games, then was sent down to the minor leagues, hit 199, and tough for Miami to watch, where Stanton goes to the Yankees, Ozuna to St. Louis. Yelich becomes the MVP. That's hit down the left field line and foul.
Milwaukee's pretty happy with that deal, no question about it. You talk about Ozuna being in a trade for some young talent. We saw Alcantara in this game. He was part of that. But one of the other players who's yet to really get any traction is Magneuris Sierra, who came over in that same deal from St. Louis.
0-2 pitch. Just missed.
Hard to lay off that perfect spot from the pitcher's point of view. Fish weren't biting.
And it's 2-2. Been talked about, it's been written about, but Jack Flaherty has forged a friendship with the great Bob Gibson. Bob was in town last year, and they talked about the grip on the slider and when to throw it, how to throw it. Those two have talked and texted back and forth. We'll see Bob Gibson opening day. The Red Jackets, the Hall of Famers, the Clydesdales. Won't be too long. 3-2 the count. The Cardinals will open up on the road against the Milwaukee Brewers. 3-2 pitch and a foul ball. Nothing like it in St. Louis. As we always say, kind of the unofficial holiday in St. Louis, opening day.
It is such a party. The game is, of course, important, but I think fans have started to understand, or they've maybe understood it for a long time, that you're really just celebrating the franchise and our community involvement and interest in the St. Louis Cardinals. Not just the local community, but the broad base of Cardinal community.
And that's a fair ball. Carries down into the corner past the bullpen of the Marlins. One thing Lewis Brinson can do is really run. And that's a double. The first hit for Miami here this afternoon.
Really a good at-bat by Brinson, who hits that ball just inside the third base bag. He was 0-2 and was able to get back in the count and show off maybe his best asset, his speed.
The batter is Austin Dean. Marlins drafted Dean, a Texas high school infielder, with their 4th-round pick in 2012. Had a very slow ascent through the minors, and it finally paid off with his major league debut last August. Has a chance to be their everyday left fielder. And if not, he'll be on the bench. And with a runner at second base, it looks like Kisner wants to go over the signs with Jack Flaherty. One thing new for the Marlins when we go there to Marlins Park this year, Rick Horton, will be the beautiful sculpture in left center field. That will be gone, and it's been dismantled, if you will, into various pieces. It's still in Marlins Park, but not visible for the fans as Brinson is running, throw down to third, and a stolen base for Lewis Brinson.
No, I had not heard that yet. Did they dismantle it with a sledgehammer?
No.
Or just...
So the idea will be that as the Cardinals will bring the infield in here, that pretty good jump by Brinson. Eventually, you could bring the sculpture potentially back outside, inside there to Austin Dean, and have it as a beautiful sight for fans to come to the ballpark and visit. Take that in all its glory as they put it back together, and no, it's not been dismantled with a sledgehammer. The 2-1. Good slider. So they would be able to put it back together, or maybe at a park, because of course I've seen you during batting practice or before a game go out there and take it in, take selfies with it, show all your friends. The 2-2. Ground ball, backhanded with the infield in. Brinson stays put, and there's one away. But then they would have to pay a fine per the rules, local government, city government rules. That this is my understanding now, so don't hold me to it. But then they would pay a fine every year of something like $25,000 to make sure that it's not displayed inside the ballpark, and they're more than happy to do that. So that's gone, and then you may notice right there's a good shot of the jersey. The jersey is different this year. That's the Marlins home jersey.
Color's a bit different.
Yeah, the teal is gone. And so I think the current ownership group is really trying to separate themselves from the Jeffrey Loria era of Marlins baseball. Jorge Posada has been added to their front office staff. And so that's my guess is what they're trying to do. Ground ball, and now 2 outs, and again Brinson staying put at third base, and there's 2 down. Brings in Miguel Rojas.
Infield in, you want a softly hit ground ball, and Flaherty able to get that done. He has a sinking fastball to go along with his slider. He'll throw 4-seamers and 2-seamers, and you want to throw the 2-seamer to get that ground ball with a runner at third base.
So now you're caught up.
I know a lot more, Dan, than I did 5 minutes ago. Thank you for helping me.
You were asking me a lot before the game about the sculpture. You were worried about it. Now you're caught up. Hit into right center, and he delivers with 2 outs. Miguel Rojas will drive in Lewis Brinson. And it's 1-0 Miami. Here in the bottom of the third, and they grab an early 1-0 lead. So how about that? Jack Flaherty with a runner at third, nobody out, gets 2 ground balls. Brinson can't advance, and Miguel Rojas comes through with 2 down.
One of the fun things about this game of baseball is how the little things come into play. His inability to put Brinson away after having him 0-2, and Brinson's ability to lay off of a pitch. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a run on the board, and Flaherty doing the hard part of getting those 2 ground balls with a runner at third, but Rojas jumping on the first pitch he saw.
So a 2-out single by Rojas makes it 1-0 Miami. In steps Brian Anderson.
One thing we have not mentioned yet, and we'll talk about it more as spring training rolls around, Dan, is the pitch clock, which I'm not going to call it a pitch clock anymore. I'm going to call it a hitter's clock. And there it is, just below the scoreboard in right center field, making sure Jack Flaherty delivers a pitch within 20 seconds.
And maybe you can get into this situation with runners on and the situation when nobody's on too.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to, of course, have the ability to throw over to first base. It doesn't mean you have to have a pitch thrown, but the attempt is to just speed up the pace of play a bit, make it a little bit more of a lively action type game. But I personally believe the hitter has more to do with that than the pitcher does. Pitcher can't get ready to throw if the hitter's adjusting his batting gloves for a minute and a half.
More people I've talked to down here believe it's more of the adjustment will have to come from the hitters than the pitchers.
No question. Pitchers all want to work fast, and hitters all want pitchers to slow down. So that's really what it is. There won't be penalties initially if they don't get in that 20-second time frame, but as we go along, we may see that.
And it's a count of 3 balls and no strikes on Brian Anderson. Miguel Rojas is the runner at first base. 1-0 Miami. That pitch taken for a strike.
Just to amplify the rule a bit, the clock starts when Jack Flaherty catches the ball back from the catcher, Kisner in this case, and he's on the dirt part. That's when the 20 seconds starts.
3-1 pitch now. Fouled back in a good cut.
And we'll take a look at the rule. There's a lot to read here, Danny, but the 20-second timer is going to operate without enforcement. That's the first paragraph there. Early next week, umpires are going to try to issue some reminders to make sure players are paying more attention to that. And perhaps later in the spring, depending upon the status of negotiations with the Players Association, they may be instructed, the umpires that is, to actually call a ball or a strike based on who is being delinquent and not ready.
Rob Manfred could put this in anyway, correct?
I still think the Players Association has to have some say in it. I mean, whether or not they're going to have a lot of say, I don't know, but they're trying to get the union to agree to it. And I think most players do agree with it. In fact, it's been a rule, which is the odd thing. We're making a rule to reinforce a rule that was already there a number of years ago, where the player was not allowed to step out of the box. That's really what happens. That's why it's over 20 seconds. The hitter stepping out and taking his time.
There's Neil Walker, longtime Pirate, first-round pick all the way back in 2004 by Pittsburgh. Spent 7 years with the Pirates in the major leagues. 1 year with the Mets, partial season with Milwaukee, and then with the Yankees. And you'd have to think it'll be a partial season with Miami and then probably traded away at some point by the Marlins as the ball gets away from the Cardinal bullpen. Left-hander getting loose for St. Louis. That's Tommy Lane, who's a St. Louis native. Trying to make this club, and he has big league experience with San Diego, Boston, among other teams. He's talked about it with me, a dream come true to wear the birds on the bat. Fifth inning, by the way. We'll visit with the Cardinal manager Mike Shildt. Throw a headset on him and get caught up with Mike and talk about the camp thus far. We've heard so much about communication with the players and the media. Mike Shildt very open about what's happening here with his team and what he's trying to accomplish.
One other thing I would say about Mike in terms of how he addresses spring training and just teaching baseball in general is he's a fundamental guy. Now, you will never find a manager at the big league level who doesn't think fundamentals are important. They all think that. But he's committed to carrying out the coaching details to make sure players have the attention on fundamentals. And there's a difference. You've got to reinforce it again and again and again and again. And you look at the schedules, Dan, the daily schedule, the word fundamentals on there quite a bit. Base running, cutoffs.
Ground ball and a force play. DeYoung to Wong and a force play at second. 1-0. Miami strikes first as we head to the fourth.
Of spring training, you think of the great George Kissel and all the teaching that goes on in the backfields. Mike Shildt being a disciple of George. Spring training, Dan McLaughlin, is just a wonderful experience. Fans that come down and get a chance to be here and experience not only Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium but the backfields as well. It's something that they'll never forget once they experience it.
We should mention too that our colleague Jim Edmonds is back in uniform and working with the outfielders. Ozzie Smith has been down here. Step camp has begun for some of the top prospects today. We'll visit with Mike Shildt coming up in the fifth inning. The Cardinals have 3, 4, and 5. That means DeYoung, Ozuna, and Jerko for St. Louis. And here's Austin Bryce. Saw him a bunch with the Cincinnati Reds, pitching now for Miami. Bryce last year 32 games with Cincinnati. A lot of buzz around the Cincinnati Reds this year with all their moves, as there should be.
I think they're a factor now. I really do. I think obviously the Cubs and the Brewers will be strong, and the Cardinals figure to be stronger as well. But I think the Reds have a lot of potential. Now, a lot of things have to go right for them. When you think about Puig and Matt Kemp, you know, you could see them going in different directions. They've been around for a while, but playing in Great American Ballpark, they could both be 30 home run guys there. And they already have some talented hitters. Winker, Schebler, Votto, Suarez.
And as you mentioned,
Jeanette.
in that ballpark,
yes,
may outslug you.
They might. And their pitching's better.
Sonny Gray a couple of days ago shut down with a sore elbow, so we'll find out more here in the next few days with that. 3 balls, 1 strike on Paul DeYoung, who struck out back in the first against Sandy Alcantara. Former Cardinal made the start for the Miami Marlins today. And that pitch taken inside for a ball, and the Cardinals have received 3 walks today and a leadoff walk with the Redbirds trailing by a run, and it brings in Marcell Ozuna. Walk back in the second inning. Tommy Lane, the left-hander, St. Louis native, continues to throw in the St. Louis bullpen. One thing we saw in that great month that the Cardinals had to get back in contention of August under Mike Shildt was aggressive base running. And Mike will tell you, if they have tells against the opposition, it is pedal to the metal. They're going to bunt and run, hit and run, straight steal, but they will be aggressive. They will take chances. That's hit out of play and lined foul. But that was 20+ wins in that month. And he will take chances. So the style of play under Mike Shildt is going to be aggressive. And the key was they were getting on base. They cut down on strikeouts.
Right.
But the key is you got to get on base.
Yeah, all that works together. He really had the Midas touch in terms of putting runners in motion at the right time on the right pitch. And that comes from the tells, as you mentioned. Players have to execute. They have to buy in. So I would say the combination of the terrific young pitching in the month of August, Gomber, Hudson, Flaherty, Ponce de Leon, Hicks, and the aggressive style of play, that's what I think got Cardinal fans pretty excited.
So if you were a fan of Whitey Ball back in the 80s, it was kind of a little bit like that. I'm not saying it was Vince Coleman and Ozzie and Willie, but a little bit like that.
On the offensive side, and on the other side, it was not like the teams in the 80s. It was like 6 guys throwing 98 miles an hour that were younger than 22, and that was a little different.
But it was fun to watch.
Oh, my goodness.
0-2 the count on Marcell Ozuna. But in this day and age, when you see baseball and everybody sits back and waits for a 3-run homer, it did catch your attention with the constant motion and movement on the bases.
Nothing wrong with a 3-run home run, but you're not going to get that every day. And you've got to make sure, well, first of all, to get the 3-run homer, you got to have a couple of guys on base. And to cut down on the strikeouts, that's part of it. But having movement on the base pass, I think, causes 3-run home runs. I mean, I don't know that there's a clear understanding of when a pitcher's worried about what's going on the bases, you're more apt to hang something. I think we saw a lot of that in August.
Nothing in 2 the count on Marcell Ozuna. Pulled to Young, your runner at first base. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. Got him with the slider, and now brings in Jed Jerko.
I should say, Dan, it is a little bit strange to me, so many years in a row of being with Mike Matheny here in spring training. First spring training without him. Ran into a Kansas City Royals scout, former Cardinal player Tim Conroy, before the game today, and they're excited that he's in line to be the next manager of the Royals at some point. That's the hope. And Ned Yost is nearing the end, and he's the one making the call on that. But Mike has landed in a good place, and so we're certainly happy for him.
That pitch taken inside, and a ball to Jed Jerko. Room on the right side. A little bit of a shift here for Jed Jerko. Be curious to see under Mike Shildt if the Cardinals will shift a little bit more or less. How much input a pitcher will have, or analytics from the front office.
Well, one of the things that's going on in baseball is they're analyzing the analytics, and they're finding out in some cases that overshifting is counterproductive. Some cases undershifting is counter. So it's really a discovery over the course of a year what's working and what doesn't. And you know, when the shift, we all, I think, understand this as being around baseball day after day. If you have the proper shift and the pitcher doesn't locate very well, it doesn't really matter. It all has to go in concert.
Slider again, drops in for a strike, and it's 1-2.
If he throws a fastball on this pitch high and away to Jed Jerko, he has the ability to hit that pitch through that hole on the right side. So that's the place you don't want to go, is up and away to a right-hander.
They play him to pull in the outfield as well. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And Jerko pops it up. Alfaro over. Oh, he runs right into the dugout. And I mean right into it. Boy, oh boy. Face first into the top rail. Then fell straight down.
It looked to me that Don Mattingly was doing everything he could to try to help him too, but that's a big man coming over there, and he obviously not familiar with how much space he had, and all the yelling didn't kind of help. They're telling him watch out, and he just runs right into the railing. Coach is there trying to hold him up.
And see Tim Wallach motioning down to the bullpen, the Marlins, to get a backup catcher down here quickly as they tend to Alfaro in that Marlins dugout. Well, he's up getting a drink of water. It seems like he may be okay. And you're right, you're in a you're in a minor league ballpark, and let's hope he's all right.
Well, he seems to have his faculties here. Here's the blow one more time. He just slams into that railing. And again, a couple of coaches trying to hold him up. And day one of spring training, I don't know why you'd even want to consider sending him back out there again, even if he felt like he could do it. They're going to rely on him this year. We saw him some in Philadelphia, and he can hit a little bit. He's acting like he wants to get back out and catch. Here's the play. Pop up, a major league pop up, and he's going 100 miles an hour. Alfaro into the dugout and into the railing, and good to see that he's okay. That was full speed, and the reaction of Bryce and Jerko and the fans in the background. Potentially a dangerous moment for him, but glad to see him back out there.
Well, seems to be all right. The count is 1-2 strikes. Third baseman Jed Jerko, the runner at first base. Paul DeYoung began the inning with a walk. Ozuna struck out.
You're going to have to be tougher than most to be a catcher, aren't you? Now, I'm saying that to a guy who was a catcher.
I wasn't very tough. So you're right.
Well, you were tough enough to try it.
Yeah, I tried it. It was horrible effort. That's why I'm up here. That ball gets away. A lot of room because the bullpens are in play. This becomes an RBI opportunity now for Jed Jerko to tie this game up.
Well, Cardinal fans, we all remember we saw a lot of this last year, just errant throws from pitchers to first base, and would suggest that that can be a game changer, obviously first to third, and would also suggest with a Gold Glover in Paul Goldschmidt playing first base, I think we'll see less of it from the Cardinals' point of view.
Think of the right side with, Goldschmidt and Wong. Pretty good,
I'll say.
Here's a 1-2, infield drawn in. Little fly ball out to shallow left, may drop, and it does. DeYoung will score. Jed Jerko has tied it up, and it's a 1-1 ball game. Jed Jerko with his first hit and RBI of spring, and it's 1-1.
It's hard to get in on the fists of Jerko because he has such good bat speed, but he gets jammed on this, but strong enough to fight it into left field for a RBI.
In steps Harrison Bader. First pitch, a strike. Believe Ramon Urias is now running for Jed Jerko. Big lead at first base. Harrison Bader singled on an 0-2 pitch to left field back in the second inning, and he pops this up left side. Is it playable? No, it'll be a souvenir right over the Marlins dugout. And again, Bader finds himself 0-2. No balls, 2 strikes with 1 out.
Urias is a shortstop by trade from Mexico, and he played at the AA and AAA level last year for St. Louis. Had a nice season offensively.
There's that slider, and he couldn't pull the trigger, and a strikeout of Harrison Bader. So Bader 1 for 2. Adolis Garcia lined into a double play back in the third inning. Tommy Lane is sat back down. Garcia check swing and a strike.
Dan, we talk so much about the Cardinal caravans because we love them. And of course fantasy camp as well, and those are some of the winter activities. I was with Adolis on a caravan that went through Tennessee and Arkansas, and he had a chance to see snow for the first time in his life.
So that was the first time.
Never seen it, but he saw it in Jonesboro, Arkansas.
So a guy from Cuba in Jonesboro, Arkansas, seeing snow for the first time.
Correct. And he was terrific to have on that caravan.
Very fun guy. Had the chance to talk to him a bunch of times last year. Very thankful for this opportunity to be in the big leagues, and the Cardinals signed for $2.5 million, as we talked about earlier.
It was interesting too how direct he was about a specific play that we remember last year. In the midst of the Cardinals doing everything right, he fell rounding third base, and it may have cost the Cardinals a game. I'd say it did, and
well, probably it ended the season.
Would it, and after that, things just exactly, it was over. But it is stuck in his head, and he brought it up. He said he feels bad that it happened, and he's going to move on and forget about it. But he was owning it, and no one really directly asked him about that. But that's the thing. I'd ask him generally, how'd you enjoy your season last year? And that's where he would go. He would say, I feel bad about that, but just going to keep playing and get better.
How was his English with you? I know you know Spanish quite well. How was his English with you?
He didn't speak a lot in English. I mean, he understood what we were saying, but we had the Cardinal interpreter with us on that trip, and he was helping him along the way.
Swing and a miss, and 3 strikeouts in the inning, but the Cardinals pick up a run and they tie it up. It's 1-1 midway through 4. Great way to see a game at Busch Stadium this year is with a group of your friends and family. Group tickets are on sale now. Groups of 20 or more receive great incentives, including a discount of up to 50% off the gate price in most seating areas. Cardinals.com/groups. 345-9000. 345-9000. Group sales. Well, here's a young man from St. Louis, Tommy Lane. And I know there's a lot of folks back home like Corey Harris cheering him on, friends of Tommy Lane that want to see him make this team, and he's got a chance. Tommy Lane grew up a Cardinal fan. He's got big league experience, and he's had good years in the big leagues too, Rick. So the Cardinals giving him a chance, as we've talked about, looking for help from the left side, and he's got a legit shot to make this club. And let's just say he doesn't make it out of spring, there are opportunities to stick with the organization and have that door open eventually and become a member of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Well, that's what you want to do if you're Tommy Lane. You want to make an impression, and you want Mike Maddox and Mike Schilt to say, yep, he's an option. With an injury, with a pitcher that may not perform well, or potential trade, what have you, you want to be in line somewhere. You don't want to be out of the conversation, and you can make that impression by having a good spring training.
Fort Zumwalt South High School, and then Southwestern Illinois College. Then he went on to the University of Central Missouri.
I actually thought we might see him at the big league level last September. He had a 1.24 ERA in AAA in 27 games.
I was shocked. He had a 36-4 strikeout to walk ratio, and the Cardinals needed left-handed help down the stretch. I really thought he'd be a guy that the Cardinals would bring up at the end of last year. He's pitched with Arizona, San Diego, Boston, the Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, and now is signed with the St. Louis Cardinals. He is the youngest of 4, and actually building a home in St. Louis. And there's a strike to Starlin Castro. So the first man he saw, he struck out. Now with a member, as a member of the St. Louis Cardinals.
We're so conditioned, Dan, to be excited about the next pitcher coming up who throws 98 miles an hour, and you can overlook a guy like Tommy Lane in the process. He's just getting outs. Did that at AAA, and that is still the name of the game, is get outs.
Pulled foul, and 2 strikes. Starlin Castro. Castro came up at the age of 20 with the Chicago Cubs, 4-time All-Star. 6 years with Chicago, 2 with the Yankees, and now in his 2nd with Miami. Tommy wearing number 68. Austin Gomber has switched to number 36. That's a foul ball. Last year with Memphis, 26 2/3 innings for Tommy Lane. Talking with Tommy earlier in camp, he told me he pitched at Busch Stadium twice with the Red Sox. Came to St. Louis with interleague play. Another foul ball. Grew up watching the Cardinals. Said he was a outfielder at heart. Said he was a huge Jim Edmonds fan. Loved the Edmonds, Larry Walker, David Eckstein days. Said watching Chris Carpenter was a treat. Three-two pitch. Got him. Strikeout of Starlin Castro. Good start here for Tommy Lane.
Well, Lane had been throwing a lot of pitches that were going in towards right-handed batters, and that one he turned over a little bit, and Castro pulled off it. So you establish inside, then you go away. It makes the plate seem wider, and that's pitching 101.
Jim Lane, by the way, is the head soccer coach at Fort Zumwalt South, and the Bulldogs won the Class III state title.
Soccer coach, you said?
That's right. This is John Bertie. And a foul ball. Where's number 55 infielder for Miami?
So Alfaro, who had that tough spill into the Marlins dugout, is pinch hit for, and that makes a lot of sense to me.
Oh, 2 pitch. Tommy Lane to John Bertie. Yanked foul. "16 pitches and 11 strikes." That's what you want to see. Ooh, a little backdoor breaking ball, and almost picked up his 3rd strikeout.
Well, here's the back door. He tries to get the slider, and it's just wide of the back door. I guess that's on the back porch, so not quite in the zone, but a good pitch. Well, that's one thing that's pretty obvious watching Tommy Lane pitch, is his ability to widen the plate. He threw the backdoor breaker, and then the next pitch he had it moving away from the right-handed batter again. He's trying to make that plate seem wider, as I mentioned, and good pitchers know how to do that.
Well, he strikes out the side, and a good start. Tommy Lane. Birds on the bat. Grew up cheering for the Cardinals. That's how you make a first impression. Way to go, Tommy Lane. 1-1 into 4. St. Louis Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you in part by Hyundai. The Hyundai SUV lineup has always been better. Now it's bigger. Visit your local Hyundai dealer or buy Hyundai.com today. And by the Missouri Lottery. Every ticket played gives back to Missouri schools. So play it forward with the Missouri Lottery. Gorgeous day. Roger Dean Stadium, spring training home for both the Cardinals and the Marlins. And the first pitch from the new hurler, RJ Alvarez, is taken for a ball. Roy Emilio Alvarez, signed to a minor league deal by Miami. He's been with the Angels, Padres, A's, Cubs, Rangers, and then in late November signed to a minor league deal. RJ Alvarez. Kisner, Ravello, Wong due up for St. Louis. Ripped out to left field. That's well hit, and a one-hopper off the wall. Kisner digging for second base, standing up, leadoff double for St. Louis.
Well, this is what we saw from Kisner last spring training. He's just swung the bat with authority. Hit .314, combined AA, AAA last year. And what he did last spring training at bats like this made the Cardinals start thinking about whether or not he was the next in line behind Yadier Molina instead of Carson Kelly. Still learning how to catch, but he's a smart young player who can hit.
Wish nothing but the best for Carson and Luke Weaver.
Both of them, you bet.
Good kids. And
well, the D-backs got two high quality people in Luke Weaver and Carson Kelly.
And Carson, you know, being behind Yadier Molina, you knew that that was just going to be, you know, this year, next year, and maybe even beyond, even though Molina's contract is up after next season. You just get the feeling that if he wants to continue to play, you know what, Ricky, it'll continue.
He has been outlasting the prospects right behind him.
Right.
And then so you just get rid of that prospect, turn to the next youngest one. And speaking of young Cardinal catchers, nice to connect with Tony Cruz today, who will be a roving coach for the Cardinals. this season, and he was out here before the game today, and he'll be living down here working with extended spring, but also following all the Cardinal minor league teams working with the catchers.
This is Rangel Rebello. He's 6'1", 225 pounds. He'll turn 27 on April 24th. Last year at Memphis, as Ricky mentioned earlier, hit .308. And the 2-0 pitch. It's now 3-0. 1-1 our score as we play here in inning number 5. Originally selected by the White Sox 6th round in June of 2010. Then he was acquired by the A's from the White Sox. That was in the Samardzija deal. Cardinals signed him as a minor league free agent in April of 2017. Chopper to short. Kisner reads it well and advances from second to third. You know, sometimes you just don't know on those balls that are hit towards short, especially with a catcher running, and he does run well, but you know, are you going to advance on those types of plays?
It's all reaction. If the ball's hit behind you, you should be able to go, but you have to read it instantaneously. A high hop more likely to give you time to get to third. If the ball's in front of you, you probably can't make it. But again, that's just, players call it getting reads, and I think it's important during batting practice, and I know the Cardinals are doing more of that this spring, to actually get those reads so you can get familiar with the times where you can advance a base. And I think if you don't feel it and you don't experience it, it's hard to get the right read time after time.
Patrick Wisdom was traded away to pick up this young man, Drew Robinson. He's got major league experience with the Texas Rangers. Infield is drawn in. And it's hit sharply. Right side and a base hit. And Robinson picks up the base hit. Kisner will score. And the Cardinals have their first lead of spring training. It's now 2-1 St. Louis as Robinson is able to drive in Kisner to make it a 2-1 Cardinal lead here in the 5th inning.
Didn't waste any time, did he? First pitch he sees as a Cardinal lines it and gets the run in. And he is being counted on to be a utility type player. And infielder, outfielder, you don't find many players like that that can do both, and maybe a better outfielder than infielder, but nice to have a left-handed bat off the bench.
Here's Dylan Carlson, and he pops it up on the first pitch that he sees. It was a shift, long way to go near the dugout, and the catch is made. Boy, and again, right by that Miami dugout, in a dangerous area. And Tommy Edman will be the batter. So Wong is out of the game. Jose Martinez now out of the game. And Edman is batting for Martinez. This is the point in the game when you get about the 5th inning on, especially the first couple of weeks, where you start to see some of the younger players, AA and AAA, that get that big league invite.
And it's about the same time of the game when you basically give up on keeping score, if you're one of the broadcasters.
I'm keeping with it. This is better than I usually do in the I'd say first couple of weeks. Matter of fact, I'm shocked.
You're in mid-season form.
I'm telling you, this is better than usual. Tommy Edman primarily is a shortstop. Started 222 games over his minor league career at that position. He's also made 56 starts at second base. Can play a little third base as well. And looks at a ball low. It's at Springfield for 109 games last season. Played 17 games at Memphis. 6th-round pick, 2016. Played baseball at Stanford, which has always been a power in college baseball. From San Diego, and he fouls that back.
Utility player who's a switch hitter, there's value when you can do that. And I think the Cardinals see him down the road as one of their utility infielders at least.
And a base hit into right field. So Tommy Edman makes it 1st and 3rd. And now Max Schrock, another one of those infielders that we've talked about to give the Cardinals a little depth up the middle.
Well, that swing looked a lot like Daniel Descalso.
Sure did.
To me, and he was a guy that we thought might be a Cardinal again. We're going to have to go watch him play up in that other city.
Don't talk about it. You know what I think of Daniel Descalso. I'm a big fan. Pains me to see that cubby blue on him. One of my favorites. But good luck to Daniel.
You bet.
Runners at 1st and 3rd, and a strike to Max Schrock. Acquired from Oakland. He came along, remember, with Jairo Munoz in the Steven Piscotty deal. And Schrock was, at this time, talked about more than Jairo Munoz.
No question, but he got hurt last spring training. We didn't see much of him. And Munoz, all he did was rake last spring. Probably the best hitter in spring training last year for the Cardinals was Jairo Munoz. And Schrock got that late start, did not have a good year at AAA for him. He'd been a 300-plus hitter the year before at the AAA level with Oakland. So he has it in him.
Here's a 1-1. Last year at Memphis, batted .249, 4 home runs, drove in 42. Remember, he injured his oblique on the first day. Practice last year, did not appear in a game.
How frustrating that must have been for him. You get a chance, a new team, make an impression, and all you have to do is watch.
Did not appear in an exhibition game until the club went to Montreal. That exhibition. Hits it the other way, and that ball is down. 2-out hit for Schrock. Drives in a run. Brings in Robinson, and the Cardinals extend their lead. Max Schrock going the other way. And it's now a 3-1 St. Louis lead. It's 3 consecutive hits for the St. Louis Cardinals here in this 5th inning.
Ball was pitched away. He took it the other way. I like seeing Cardinals run the base pass, too. There was some pretty good speed from Edman getting from 1st to 3rd. He was flying around second base.
Pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre Jr. We had Todd Stottlemyre at the ballpark last year.
And his father, Mel Stottlemyre, very well respected pitching coach. Long time with the Yankees, and he passed recently, and one of the great coaches of our time.
Here's Urias. The spot that was occupied by Ozuna almost hit him, and staying put is Schrock. So 2 outs and runners at first and third for the Cardinals, now leading 3-1. And drops in for a strike, 1 ball and 1 strike. Visit with Mike Schilt coming up in the bottom half of this inning. The fly ball lifted out to deep left. At the wall, it is gone. It's a home run. 3-run homer. The Cardinals now make it a 6-1 St. Louis lead.
Young guys getting their opportunity, and this time it's Urias, the infielder. And he got that ball up in the wind. The wind is blowing out a bit towards left field, but certainly barreled that enough to get it out. I think he knew it.
Now Lane Thomas. But the young guys making a difference here. Doing the damage here with 2 outs. That's now 4 hits in a row for the Cardinals. A check swing and a strike. This has been a player that many around camp have said, watch this guy play. He's going to get a lot of at-bats, and they are high on this young outfielder. Strike 2. Lane Thomas began his career as an infielder slash outfielder with the Blue Jays. Acquired from the Blue Jays in exchange for international cap space. July of last season, and he'll pick up a base hit out to left.
Tough inning for Alvarez. The young Cardinal batters are just taking it to him here in the 5th inning. That is 6 hits now, and Don Mattingly will need to get him some help.
Adolis Garcia will be the batter for St. Louis coming up. Big inning for the Cardinals. All St. Louis. Here at the top of the 5th. Pitching change. 6-1 St. Louis. What's on tap will come your way tomorrow at noon. And that'll be Michael Wacha tomorrow. Also get a look at Daniel Ponce de Leon. He'll back him up. Michael Wacha, Daniel Ponce de Leon. And we'll come your way tomorrow at noon. That's our Budweiser What's on Tap. New pitcher and a lefty for the Miami Marlins. Brian Moran. One ball, one strike. Adolis Garcia at the plate. He is lined into a double play and also struck out. Andrew Kisner started this big inning for the Cardinals with a double to left. He's on deck. It's chopped foul. Where might the Cardinals and Michael Wacha have been last year if he could have stayed healthy? That's one of the questions that remain from a year ago. The oblique. Was it the shoulder, which is something I think a lot of people point to, and he did a great job in making sure that that was not a problem or lingering a year ago for Michael. It was the oblique, unfortunately for him, and he was having an all-star type campaign.
Well, you just like to see him have 34 starts in a season, wouldn't you? Just
yeah.
be out there every 5th day. Let's see what happens.
Cardinals bat around here in this 5th inning, and again Mike Schilt coming up in the bottom half, and we'll have the chance to visit with Mike.
Well, he's going to be happy, isn't he?
Always works that way.
Oh, he's always happy, but you have a 5-run top of the 5th. You might be catching him at just the right time.
I would think so. Kisner now with runners at first and second. So Pena re-signed by the Cardinals. Kisner chance to develop a little bit more at AAA, and in particular behind the plate.
Right. And that development includes not just the catch and throw part, but the calling the game. It just takes a while. Again, an infielder for a lot of his career, turned to catching, played collegiately at NC State, and got an engineering degree from NC State, and had 1 B in college. Now, I know you just had 1 B too, Dan, but no A's. Isn't that what you were telling me?
And not many B's either. Not many C's. Got the degree, but just wasn't. To be honest, Rick, I mean, I don't know if I should have even gotten that.
You've done just fine, Danny.
Well, it worked.
I did hear Kisner and Paul DeYoung talking one day, and they were talking about chemistry and physics, and, and I thought, you know, that's just not a conversation you expect to hear.
On the baseball diamond?
Yeah, or this was actually on a Caravan bus.
Three and two the count. You know, the interesting part in college as a catcher, those games are called by the head coach, if you will, not really the manager at that college level. It's the head coach, and the catcher will look in to the dugout, and the coaching staff calls the pitches. So when they get to the pro level, the catcher is really learning how to call a game, and that is something that they have to learn when they get to the pro level.
I understand that college is about competing and winning, and that's why they do it, and they take it out of the hands of their pitcher and catcher to call a game, but it certainly is not what's best for their development.
No.
It may be best to win at that moment. There are some colleges that are going to a different idea, and they are letting their players learn the game and letting them call their own game.
And that's a ball. 2 balls and no strikes with the bases loaded here for Ravello. Yeah, Mike Schilt will tell you that the kids here in the States that go to all the showcases just don't learn how to play the game. Now they have the skills, the arms and the speed, and they hit for power, but learning how to play the game, lost art.
Well, some of those showcase teams, and this will be a weird way to say it, Dan, they don't lose enough. Because you want to learn to play the game, play against people better than you. And or be a bad player on a good team or a good player on a bad team. You have to have both experiences, and you learn the little edges to get better. You watch your teammates do things you can't do yet. You watch the opposition take it to you. You just learn that way.
3-1 pitch. 3 and 2, and so the runner's off with the next pitch with the bases loaded. Visit with Mike Schilt coming up at the bottom of this inning. There they go, and there's the strikeout. Couldn't pull the trigger. Urias, the big blow in this big inning. 3-run shot. And the Cardinals have a 6-1 lead midway through 5 on Fox Sports Midwest. 5, our chance to visit with Mike Schilt. And Mike, let's jump right into it. How do you feel camp is going?
I love camp. Camp's going well. Guys are getting after it. Going according to plan.
Mike, I wanted our fans to hear what we've already mentioned, the standing ovation that Jose Martinez got with his extension today, but I want to hear it in your words and what that moment was like.
Yeah, it was really special. You know, Mo did a great thing, and not only getting it done and, you know, wrapping him up for 2 years, but also really class when we were able to announce it at the club this morning in the clubhouse meeting, and you got not only one ovation from the clubhouse and the guys, but two.
Mike, I want to ask you about what you thought of your pitchers today. Let's start with Miles and then Jack Flaherty. What did you think of those two?
Yeah, I like Miles. You know, first time out, started to get in the strike zone a little more as he went, started to get his rhythm a little bit. So ball's coming out nice. Same thing with Jack. Ball's coming out good. Just getting back out there for his first touch on the mound and getting all his pitches working.
You're going to have a lot of changes coming up, aren't you?
For the game?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we pretty much made most of them. A lot of these guys are going to be riding. We're going to get Kiz out of here after this half inning and get Hudson in there. And, we'll get Garcia out here in a little bit, get Rosarina in there.
Can you tell us a little bit about, I know our fans are curious about Carlos Martinez. How is he progressing and just the game plan with him?
Yeah, I sat down with Carlos this morning, and he's, you know, for everything considered, he's in a really good spot. You know, he's obviously like to be in camp, ready to go, getting built up, but you know, he's throwing and getting after it and doing, you know, I say that he's not throwing actually, but is getting his strength going and getting back to shape.
Well, Mike, we do appreciate you visiting with us, and I'm sure you're thrilled to death to be out here getting it done now. We've been talking about this team and all the changes that were made in the winter, but now you get a chance to go out and do something about it.
Yeah, this is so nice. You know, we spent a lot of the offseason, and one of the first things we talked about with the club was just how much we appreciated everybody's interaction, not only the staff. That's our job. We had a great productive all season. Guys were really into it as well and open to different feedbacks, and you know, now it's time to let the execution take place.
A final question, Mike, and I know you got a lot of changes going on in that dugout. A Mike Schilt camp. What are you trying to accomplish? Tell our fans with this camp.
Just making sure we dot the I's, cross the T's. We do it together, we prepare together, and then we execute, and then we enjoy it.
Mike, we enjoy you. Thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks talking to you again.
Yeah, you got it. That's Mike Schilt, manager of the Cardinals, and he's got a lot of, we were talking between the innings. He said, guys, I got a lot of changes I got to make. Hold on here.
You know, I was intrigued by, you know, Mike is such an easygoing guy and a great communicator, as you mentioned earlier. But you get a sense for talking to him during a game, even though it's spring training game one, that he's got a competitive side to him that's extremely focused. And, you know, you can't be in this game at this level without having a lot of focus and trying to figure out how to manage 20 different thoughts in his head right now about how to use the bullpen today and what guys he wants to look at and, you know, what's he seeing and how far does he go with somebody. I mean, there's a lot of things rolling around in that brain of his.
But I have an idea for tomorrow. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, tomorrow, I think we're going to go with Mike Maddox because a member of our crew said, I'm looking for Mike, and they put the headset on Mike Maddox, and he said, okay, and he goes, we said, hey, Mike, and he said, hey, guys.
And it was the wrong Mike.
It was the wrong Mike between innings.
So we don't want to hurt his feelings.
Right. So I think we'll talk to Mike Maddox after the game and say, Mike, we don't want to hurt your feelings. Would you mind coming on with us tomorrow?
We're going through all the mics right now, and you're next.
Do you feel that's okay?
I think that's appropriate.
And
I hope he's still talking to us.
Well, Mike Maddox said, well, no problem, guys. Let's talk.
He's all ready to go, and it's like, Mike who? Oh, that Mike.
Yeah. And then he goes, no, that Mike Schilt's over there.
Oops.
He said, no problem, guys. He's Mike Schilt's over there. So, okay. All good. Mike Maddox, a good guy.
Oh, he's terrific. He's fun.
So maybe we'll visit with Mike Maddox tomorrow. All right, leadoff walk. And that first pitch to Austin Dean, taken a little bit low. This is Chris Beck. He's got major league experience with the White Sox a year ago, and that pitch taken low. We'll tell you a little bit more about Chris Beck as this inning goes along. There's a walk to Lewis Brenson. You might get a chance to see, even though And this is what happens, as you know, Ricky, in spring training games. 6-1, 5-run lead. Normally, a regular season, you wouldn't see Lewis Brinson run, but you might even in spring training games down by 5.
Yeah, you're not really caring about winning and losing. Of course, you'd rather win than lose, but there may be a bigger priority, and that might be just to see how Brinson steals bases and to get used to that. If that's part of his deal, how many opportunities are you going to get in spring training? Maybe not enough, where if you're actually thinking about the situation and you run, as opposed to just running when you have the chance.
And he's back in.
Beck has spent parts of 4 seasons in the big leagues with the White Sox, also with the Mets a bit last year. Worked in 6 games. He's from Georgia, and he is a 28-year-old pitcher that's trying to stick.
A ball and 2 strikes. Austin Dean grounded out to short back in the 3rd inning. There's a fly ball lifted down the right field line. It is slicing just foul. Game began with Miles Michaelis. Jack Flaherty, really impressive inning from St. Louis native Tommy Lane. Boy, was he good.
3 strikeouts, 3 straight guys, and I mean, really kind of blew him away, Dan, throwing 88, 89 miles an hour tops, but had terrific movement, a little bit of a funky delivery.
Hitting spots, though. And you've talked about it, I think, more than anybody, Ricky. The fact is, you don't have to throw 98.
It helps.
No question. But you mix speeds, you've got movement, you hit spots, you can win. You can be competitive. You can get ground balls. And that's lifted out to right field, and the catch is made. Brinson back to the bag at first, and there's one away after the out of Dean.
You know, I find with young pitchers, Dan, you have to convince them. Minor league guys, and that's part of what the coaches do with them. I mean, you are who you are. You can't throw 98 if you can't. So you have to believe that you can get outs by doing the little things right with control and movement. And if you don't believe that, if you're warming up next to somebody like Alex Reyes and you realize, okay, I can't do that, I can't be as good as Alex Reyes, you're sunk. You've got to realize, look, I'm going to make more good pitches than the next guy, and that's going to be what separates me. You have to believe that, and clearly Tommy Lane has figured that out. That's why he's still in the game.
And he's left-handed too, so there's a spot to be had. Rosell Herrera, switch hitter, grounded out. Back in the 3rd. (6-1) Cardinals as they picked up 5 runs back in the 5th inning. Here's a 1-0 pitch. And it's a ball and a strike. Popped up, shallow left. Herrera retired. Cardinals spring training baseball is always live with MLB at Bat. You can follow the action through game day. Watch video highlights, track stats, standings, breaking news, and more. Download MLB at Bat now. I'm sure some of our fans are watching us on that app or the Fox Sports Go app or at home on Fox Sports Midwest Plus, and we'll be on Fox Sports Midwest tomorrow. It's 2 outs. Dixon Machado as we return to the top of the lineup now for the Marlins. We got Washington tomorrow. Minus Bryce Harper. Pickoff here. All right, let's see it. The rundown to perfection, Rick Horton.
Done very well. Fundamentals on display.
I love it.
In Jupiter.
First game, rundown, perfect.
Tear to my
6-1.
eye.
Many of the regulars, they stick around to about the 6th inning. Then they start to sign some autographs and adios.
And they leave on this good spot for the Cardinals. This is fundamentals. Pitcher steps off, runs at the base runner, gives it up, only one throw, and he is retired. And a lot of communication. They yell step off. Then again, they shorten the distance between the two fielders, make the one throw, and tag out a dangerous base runner. Love to see PFP working in spring training.
There's Drew Robinson, and Brett Graves now is on the mound.
Another St. Louis area pitcher. We've already seen Tommy Lane. Now we see Graves.
Drew Robinson, a versatile guy that we mentioned, can play all 4 infield positions and all 3 outfield spots. And now, is this going to be caught? Oh, it is out in center field. No, it's not. And Robinson could run on his way to second base and save at second. Drew Robinson is 2 for 2. Mesa also was trying to come up with that great play in center, but Robinson now 2 for 2.
Well, he had it for a second, but when the glove hit the ground, the ball pops out. It's not a catch. Almost had it. Does a little tumble. That should be a double. And a good start for Drew Robinson. Graves, by the way, pitched at Francis Howell High School in the St. Louis area. So another Cardinal fan growing up.
He was the Post-Dispatch Player of the Year. Gatorade Baseball Player of the Year from Missouri. Pitcher and shortstop. Also is an outstanding football player, too. Went to the University of Missouri. Cardinals actually drafted Graves back in 2011. 26th round selection. Slowly hit left side to short. That'll advance the runner. Robinson save at first. Dylan Carlson getting down the line, picking up the base hit.
Well, this is why we love contact, because contact can produce base runners. Didn't hit it that hard, but hit it in the right spot. You know, the strikeout, if I had one wish for the game of baseball for 2019, Dan, it would be less strikeouts and more balls in play.
Last year, the first time there were more strikeouts than hits overall in the game of baseball ever in the game.
Can I get two wishes?
Of course.
That one doesn't seem to be big enough, because I'd like to see the Cardinals win the World Series. So I don't want to waste my wish on just lower strikeouts. So let me get two.
Well, more times than not, you do get 3 wishes. So get greedy. And that's a base hit into right field. It's now a 7-1 Cardinal lead. Base hit into right. Tommy Edman making a 7-1 Cardinal lead.
That's now 8 hits off the bench for the Cardinals. Sandy Alcantara was very good against the Cardinals starting 9. He went 2 innings giving up just 1 hit, no runs. But the Cardinals have really feasted here in the middle innings.
Here's Max Schrock. Runners at first and second. Fouled back. These are some very comfortable swings and at bats against Brett Graves. Graves selected in the 3rd round in 2014 by Oakland. Picked up by the Marlins in the Rule 5 draft in 2017.
Interesting to see, Dan, several left-handed batters here in the game at the time. Drew Robinson with a couple of hits, and Carlson, the runner at second. Tommy Edman, switch hitter, and Schrock from the left side. You'd like to have a balanced bench and a balanced lineup.
And a fly ball lifted out to deep right field off the bat of Schrock. They've done it again. The second 3-run homer of the day for the Cardinals. This one off the bat of Max Schrock.
Well, if you're tuning in and you've been here from the start and you were expecting the Cardinals to show some pop and some power, the 2 guys that have hit the 3-run home runs might not have been the top of your list. Urias, now Schrock, both with 3-run home runs. And that happens in spring training. And that's how you get to know these guys' names.
A 10-1 St. Louis lead. 12 hits now for the Cardinals today. Urias had the 3-run homer back in the 5th, and a 3-run homer here in the 6th. Base hit into center. Nobody up and throwing yet now for the Marlins, and that may change here momentarily. Rough outing here for Brett Graves.
And we're hearing, Dan, from several Cardinal fans who are thrilled to be watching Cardinal baseball again. There's just something about spring training and getting it started again. And we have fans watching from all over Cardinal Nation. Jack Scribner is watching from Flint, Michigan. And we wish Jack the best. He is thrilled that the Cardinals are back playing again.
He's been through an awful lot, and hopefully a little baseball lifts his spirits.
You bet.
Lane Thomas at the plate, singled back in the 5th inning. Fly ball down the right field line. Oh, that's a fair ball. Drops in. Everybody safe. Runners at first and second.
Boy, when it rains, it pours, doesn't it?
Woo.
That's Magneuris Sierra. I'm not sure. He got a great jump on that. We know how good his speed is, and the route was, well, it wasn't bad. I don't think he did have a chance of making that play. He was playing so deep, respecting the power of Lane Thomas.
series that he had against the Marlins.
Oh, yeah.
2 years ago is remarkable.
Probably why he's a Marlin now.
I agree. Here's Adolis Garcia. Looks at a strike. Lined into a double play. Struck out and walked.
The Cardinals offense at that time was 100% Sierra and Tommy Pham.
That's right. Tommy Pham winning his arbitration case. Tampa Bay Rays.
We wish him the best.
Always have. Appreciated his hustle.
Candor.
I always did. I'm not sure everybody else did, but I did. Here's a 1-1. And Garcia hits a fly ball off the end of the bat. And a sliding catch in left field. That's the first out.
Well, Dan, I love your candor when I agree with you.
Which isn't often. I'd have to say it's not often.
Often enough. Nice play in left. And remember, this inning started with a play that wasn't made in center.
Right.
Kind of opened the floodgates.
Tomorrow we'll see Dexter Fowler. He'll be at the at least in the second spot in the lineup. Mike Schilt talking about that. Mentioned that Michael Wacha will pitch. Many of the regulars will be in the lineup for the Cardinals in what will be technically a home game for Mike Schilt as the Cardinals split this complex with the Marlins. Cardinals are the visiting team today. Here's the 0-1 pitch to Andrew Kisner. Hit down the right field line, foul.
We've talked about this in prior seasons, Dan, but one of the kind of standard spring training protocol options for managers that you want to play 4 or 5 regulars every day. Not all of them, especially for games that are televised and the fans want to have a chance to look at players.
It's supposed to be a rule.
And there is it is a rule that is I'm going to say not reinforced as much as some managers would like it to be. But even when you're traveling, the idea is to have 4 or 5 regulars in the lineup just for the fans that will be at whatever venue the game is being held. And we expect that to happen as the season goes on.
That is a base hit into right. You know about Sierra's arm, and the Cardinals will have the bases loaded now. So Kisner, he's had a nice day on base for the 3rd time. A double, a single, and a walk.
So Stottlemyre back out to the mound, and this is not really what the Marlins were hoping for today. They had a rough 5th inning, now followed by a rough 6th inning. So you have a lot of pitchers you want to see, and then all of a sudden you're using them quicker than you had planned. But certainly not a good afternoon for Graves.
2019 promotional schedule features 5 bobblehead giveaway dates, including a Hall of Fame opening day car parade bobblehead, Yadier Molina and Roberto Clemente bobblehead, and more. Get your tickets through the 5-game bobblehead pack or as a single game ticket, on sale now at Cardinals.com. Activity now for the Marlins, but to your point, 5 regulars supposed to travel or be in play on both sides for spring training games. For the fans in attendance, for those watching on television, make sure you keep the interest for the games up. Ravello was up with the bases loaded last time and struck out. This time delivers with a base hit into left. And the Cardinals add on with a base hit by Ravello with the bases loaded. 11-1 now. And the bases will remain loaded. A hanging breaking ball by Graves.
Well, he's been throwing a lot of strikes, maybe too many. He's only thrown a couple of pitches out of the strike zone, and the ones that have been in the strike zone have been hittable.
Here's Drew Robinson.
This too is a unique thing to spring training. He would have been out 4 or 5 hitters ago in a normal game.
No question. The left side of the Cardinals bench. And this would be Drew Robinson, one of the candidates. Cardinals, we know they will have at least Jose Martinez and Jed Jerko, you would assume, at least for the time being. Backup catcher. Robinson pulls it foul. And Robinson so unique in the fact that he gives the Cardinals so much versatility because he can play infield and outfield.
Yeah, and he's not just going to stand out there. He can play all those positions well, and I think that's a key to being a utility guy. You're not really a utility guy if you're a below average fielder, in my estimation. I mean, anybody can stand in right field or center field, but you have to be able to perform at a high level. You at least have to be average defensively at those positions, in my view, to be a good utility player.
Very good arm, we're told, too. So it's not like it's, you know, a liability defensively with the arm. I mean, it's a plus arm.
Go back to Jose Oquendo, and there's been several since then, obviously.
Throw to the plate, force play there.
But Jose, Dan, was an outstanding shortstop. Big range, huge arm. Could play first base, could play second base really well. Was good on the turn. Could play the outfield because his arm. I mean, he could just do it all. And not just
weapon.
And not just average.
Hence,
and he could pitch,
as we found out too. So pitching change. 2 outs, bases loaded. 11-1 St. Louis. Nick Anderson, the right-hander, in for the Miami Marlins. Dylan Carlson will be the batter for St. Louis. Cardinals, the spring training opener, Roger Dean Stadium. Opener for both clubs. 11-1 our score.
Dan Carlson's an intriguing guy. He remains one of the Cardinals' top prospects. He's only 20 years old. Hasn't had the big breakout season offensively yet at the minor league level, but he is still a top 10 prospect for St. Louis. First round pick in 2016. Again, when you're just 20. And he's a switch hitter. Has occasional power. I think he's still developing.
Split time last year, Palm Beach and Peoria. And he picks up no, he can't. What a play. It's second. Robs him of a base hit. Max Schrock. Cardinals have a pair of 3-run homers. This one moments ago by Max Schrock. Over the wall in right. 11-1 midway through 6. 16 hits for the Cardinals today. Bottom of the 6th. Look at the box score, and Ricky, it's been the bench, guys off the bench really doing the damage.
Yeah, and the top 6 guys were guys that did not start in this game, but they've been hard to stop. They're 11 for 14 collectively. Robinson, Carlson, Edmund, Schrock, Urias, and Lane Thomas. They have been spectacular, including the 3-run home runs by both Schrock and Urias.
Hunter Cervenka. Signed as a minor league free agent in November. Part of independent ball a year ago. Also in the minor leagues, Toledo, Erie, and Lakeland.
And he's been in Jupiter before because he was a Marlin a couple of seasons.
That's right.
So he knows the routine here.
Nothing in 2 on Dixon Machado. Machado at the top of the lineup now for the Marlins, trailing by the score of 11-1. Very warm day here at Roger Dean Stadium. here in Jupiter. It's been warm from the onset of camp. We've had one rainy day. As Cervenka gets the strikeout, and that has been it. It was day 2. Pitchers and catchers reported day 2. It was a rainy day. And still, with the complex here, you can actually see behind the green batter's eye is where the pitchers can throw and the hitters can still get in some work. And that was it. Ever since then, it's been warm, very warm down here. And we don't mean to rub that in for folks that are experiencing cold weather in the Midwest, but it's been great weather down here.
Well, the cages, if you have to use the cages several days in a row with the weather being bad, those walls start to close in on you. There's not a lot of space to do fundamental work, Dan, and I know managers would prefer, if you're going to have some bad weather in the spring, we don't want it at the beginning. We want to get our routines down. We want to get guys kind of loose and used to what we expect from them and kind of get a flow for the work that is expected. And then, you know, if it rains in mid-March, that's okay.
Devin Marrero at the plate. At some point next week, we'll see Alex Reyes. Be a story here in camp. There's a ground ball to second, 2 away. So when Martinez was shut down for 2 weeks, that day Alex Reyes was supposed to throw another bullpen. Then they moved him up to live batters. You know, Ricky, it's a situation where you could see him continuing to progress, and then eventually, you know, they take off the training wheels, if you will, and say, let's just get him on a schedule, and he fits in the plans and breaks camp with this team. I'd love to see it. I mean, well, I'm so excited for him.
Well, his upside is tremendous, and I know all of us, and maybe even Cardinal pitching coaches and the manager and maybe even Alex himself are trying to temper the expectations considering what he's been through the last couple of years with injury. But if you watch him throw, when I've seen him throw a couple of times down here already, I mean, he's different. He's got a big-time arm, big-time potential, and he could be a top starter in this Cardinal rotation.
Garrett Cooper at the plate.
He said, I've been listed for several years in a row now as a top Cardinal prospect. I'm tired of that word, because once you get to the big league stick and stay, you're not a prospect anymore. You're there, and that's what he wants to be. He didn't say that arrogantly. He just believes it's his time to get it done.
Here's a 1-2 pitch in the dirt and blocked, but take it for a ball, and it's 2-2. Washington will be here tomorrow. We'll have it for you on Fox Sports Midwest. We'll also have the game for you on Monday, as the Detroit Tigers will be here. And at some point, we'll see Paul Goldschmidt. You know, he'll get a huge round of applause. That'll get a round of applause as well. The strikeout for Cervenka.
Good inning.
Reminder, we have the jersey giveaways coming up all season long. And premium suites as well. Full service bar in each suite, newly enhanced menu, renovated design, perfect for entertaining clients or friends. Learn more at cardinals.com/premium suites.
Well, Danny, you said we're trying not to rub it in just how nice the weather is. I kind of think we are rubbing it in with those shots that we have. The ocean.
We don't mean to, but
I think so.
Here we are.
A little bit.
Well, it is what it is. Here's Tommy Edman.
Well, it does mean that the regular season isn't that far away. Spring training, I know from the player's point of view, can feel like it's a long time, but it goes by pretty quickly, and before you know it, it'll be opening day in St. Louis.
0-2 pitch to Edman, taken high.
We won't have the palm trees.
No.
Or the ocean, but it'll be nicer.
I do remember, though, last year, the first month, it was as cold of a first month I could remember. many years. And the 1-2. Ground ball hit to second. One away. Max Schrock at the plate. Schrock, the 3-run homer to right. Cardinals with a pair of those. They lead 11-1 here in the top of the 7th. And Schrock lifts another one out to deep right. Track, wall, and it's a one-hopper off the wall. Schrock to second. On his way to third. Relay to third. He's in there safely. No, he came off the bag, and they held the tag. A little smile from Max Schrock. No argument. He knew it. He came off the bag, and give the Marlins credit. They held the tag on him, and he's out at third base.
And he did not come off the bag for long. He tries to hang on and goes off just for that split second. And the tag being held, it was an exciting moment, at least, because a triple to me is as fun as anything in baseball. And good quick relay. It was started with a good throw from Sierra in right. They had to do everything perfectly to get Schrock at third, and they did.
And now there's 2 outs. Ramon Urias. So 2 outs and now 2 strikes.
So Schrock gets credit for a double. He's thrown out at third. And if he gets a chance to hit in the 9th inning and hits a triple, then he hits for the cycle off the bench.
Not bad. That'll get your attention.
100%.
And a strikeout. So with that, it's time to stretch. Good start for Schrock here in 2019. Time to stretch 11-1.
Authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. It's been all Redbirds here this afternoon. Game 1, spring training, 11-1 is the score. Cardinals have out-hit the Marlins 17-2. And their bench has provided a lot of that offense. Ryan Helsley, the hard-throwing right-hander, will have the bottom of the 7th inning. And he is one of the top Cardinal prospects with that big arm. He can be both a starter and a reliever. And we're underway here in the bottom of the 7th. Ground ball to the right side. That's handled. And 1 pitch, 1 out as Ravello takes care of Magneuris Sierra. Helsley was slowed a bit last spring training. Didn't see him a lot. And the Cardinals were very careful with him last year. He only appeared in 13 total games in the season because of injury. But he is still, at the age of 24, a can't-miss guy.
All right, Ricky, this is my guy.
I know.
I've been talking about him. I'm excited about him. To me, this is the guy that kind of falls in line, if you've been following the Cardinals in recent history, with the Rosenthal, Segrist, Martinez, big arms, next wave of pitchers that's got good fastball, good curveball. And if he wasn't hurt last year, I think at some point he probably makes a major league debut when they needed help. Now he's in the starters in a role at the minor leagues, but could fill at some point a reliever's role. He's got good stuff.
97 on that fastball. He did start his first 3 years in the minor leagues and put up very good numbers. ERA right around 2 first 2 seasons, and just a little bit above that his 3rd year, and just kept winning. 27-9 as a minor league starter. That's pretty good. It's a power delivery from Helsley, and he's Danny Mac's guy. Strong backside, very quick and agile delivery. You could tell he's generating arm speed with what he's doing with his lower half.
Last pitch hit 100 on the gun. 99 there on the gun here locally at the ballpark.
We talk about this, Dan, but he has got, you mentioned Trevor Rosenthal, he's got some tree trunks for legs.
Yep.
And that power often comes from your lower half. Very, very strong.
Goodbye. Will not turn 25 until the middle of July 18th.
He throws hard, but he's got a breaking ball to go along with it. Sharp.
Look at that movement. It's my guy, Ricky. I'm telling you. Go on the backfields like I do, and you'll see that.
Oh, I see you all the time over there.
Going back there and seeing those minor league pitchers and players. And
well, I know you weren't there yesterday seeing them because they're not here yet.
But you go back there and you just see the individual workouts.
They'll be here soon enough.
Is it a 91 to be a little cutter maybe? And the high heat upstairs.
Are you trying to be his agent?
Well, I'm just saying he's got good stuff. He's got pretty good stuff.
Your guy.
Got pretty good stuff. Keep an eye on him. That's all I'm saying. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you in part by Budweiser. Wherever legendary MLB moments happen, Budweiser will be there. And by Ford, the official car and truck of the St. Louis Cardinals. Along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. We're at Jupiter, Florida. 11-1 Cardinals about hit the Marlins. 17-2, and pretty impressive inning there by Ryan Helsley.
1-2-3 inning, couple of strikeouts. No one warming up in the Cardinals bullpen, so perhaps he's going to go out for a second inning.
With the injury to Carlos Martinez, sets him back, shut down by the Cardinals, at least shut down for 2 weeks. It's going to be 2 weeks, if not more, and then you're on a different program coming back, so you don't know.
Start slow again. And
yeah, and then at what point you come back, what role are you in? Hudson is still with the starters, so he's not in the bullpen. Gomber's still with the starters. He's not in the bullpen. You don't know about Daniel Ponce de Leon. He's still with the starters. You know, Helsley's an intriguing guy. And there's a base hit into center field by Lane Thomas, and these bench guys are making an impression here in the first game of spring training. But you know, you come out and you just don't know. Every year it happens with every team. A player and a pitcher will emerge, and they make an impression, and they force themselves onto a team, or they force Mike Shildt and his staff in the front office to think hard about decisions and what to do. And you never know. A guy like Ryan Helsley or somebody else could force their way onto the team.
And obviously the Cardinals aren't going to make a decision before they actually have to make that decision. It's going to unfold as spring training goes along. But several guys on the pitching side you could think of as a starter or reliever. You mentioned a couple of them, but you got Gomber, Ponce de Leon, Hudson, Reyes, and now Martinez, that you're wondering where are they going to fit in terms of their, that's several guys that could go one way or the other. And so I think you just let let the season play out, see who's ready, see who's performing, and make your adjustment there. It's a lot easier to go from being trained as a starter and then start him in the bullpen than the other way around. You'd rather have Gomber, Ponce de Leon, Hudson start get as many innings as possible, and you could always go back to the bullpen with them if you decide to keep them at the big league level. So I think that's really going to be the key for Mike Shildt, is finding enough innings for all these dual type guys that can both start and relieve.
It was Randy Arozarena flies out to right field. Here's Joe Hudson, took over behind the plate for Kisner. A crowd today 4,831. 4,831 here this afternoon, enjoying the sunshine, the great weather, and baseball is back. And there's a strike as it drops in. No balls, 2 strikes. And you've done that, Ricky. I mean, you've gone to camp and trained as a starter.
Yep.
So you're lengthened out. You're able to do that and then go to the relief role.
And I think the important thing to do there is to realize that innings are what's most important, even if you get them in AAA and AA games.
Let's pop back to the screen for the out. The Ballpark app is the one-stop shop to access and manage your tickets, receive exclusive content, and find the best eats in the ballpark, and so much more. Download the MLB Ballpark app today from your app store. And for more information on what the Ballpark app has to offer, visit Cardinals.com/Ballpark app.
Dan, I could see the Cardinals using that more than they've done in the past if they are training 7 or 8, maybe more guys to start, is once those games start happening on the back fields, throw a couple guys over there for 5 innings in a AA or AAA game. I think it makes sense to do that.
I think the Cardinals are planning on doing that because
they have to.
The amount of guys that they have, in particular starters, that are still in the running to make this club and unsure of where they fall in the rotation and if they fall in the rotation, but you've got to be prepared. Here's Ravello. 1 ball, 1 strike with 2 outs here in the 8th, and that's lifted down the left field line, but foul. Good to be back along with Rick Horton, Dan McLaughlin. We're on Fox Sports Midwest Plus today, and tomorrow we'll be on Fox Sports Midwest and again on Monday. Tied him up.
Dan, I say it once every spring, just once, and you allow me to. The one thing I miss about spring training is pitchers running in the outfield during the game.
Well, you still may see it.
Oh, they don't do it very often.
If the
bothers me. I loved it. It was,
I bet, you know what, I'm going to say it. I bet on Monday we see it.
You think so?
Tigers will make a trip. That'll be what, maybe a 2.5, 3 hour trip. I bet you see it on Monday.
I can't wait.
So if the team travels fairly far, lengthy trip, you'll have somebody on Monday run.
You do your work, and you still need more work to do. Sometimes pitchers will go out and throw more in the bullpen if they don't get enough pitches on the mound. But that's part of the work that you do get as well in terms of your legs, is the running.
Base hit, Ravello into right field. Yep, I'm going to say Monday. We see it usually once or twice, spring training. Used to see it all the time.
Wasn't it last spring training where there was a promotion that they were doing down here in the ballpark with an automobile during?
Yeah, got caught in right field.
Yes, couldn't leave the field.
So our television truck is located in right field.
Right.
And it's a fairly sizable truck. There it is. And
that's where all of our brains are right now.
That's right. They're the people that really make this thing happen.
And they're stuck in that truck.
Right. They don't come out all spring. We kind of slide food under the door. And that's how they live. And yeah, they couldn't get the car out for the promotion. All right, midway through 8, game 1 of 278 this summer. Pretty impressive first inning for Ryan Helsley as we go pitch by pitch.
He earns another inning, but we'll look at the last batter he faced. Cutter in, fastball up, belt high, and up and away. Just blew away his third hitter. There's the power delivery of Danny's favorite, Ryan Helsley.
Not saying he's my favorite. I just said keep an eye on the guy. I like that one too. That was painted with what, 98 on the gun?
Give you a piece of advice.
Yes, sir.
Mentioned that it sounds like you're trying to be his agent. If he,
I'm not trying to be his agent.
but here's my
Will
advice.
You stop.
Here's my advice. If he asks you,
I'll sign up.
say yes.
Yes.
I think you've heard me tell the story that Jim Thome was my teammate in the minor leagues, and he asked me to be his agent.
You're a moron. Why you wouldn't be sitting here if you would have said yes?
I can't argue with that assessment.
Did he really?
Yes. He came to the back of the bus. I was the veteran guy on the way down, and he was the young slugger on the way up in the Indians organization. He came to the back of the bus, and he said, you know, I don't know if I can trust any agents. I'm really struggling. Would you consider being my agent?
Oh, Ricky. And here you are sitting next to me.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
There's another strikeout for Ryan Helsley.
Let's see, Hall of Fame, $10 million a year. And
Yeah, let's see. You would have gotten, what, 3%?
3 to 6%.
Whatever, yeah. Man. And here you are.
And here I am.
That beautiful lanyard that you're wearing to make sure you're an official member of the media.
Wouldn't have it any other way, as I said.
Harold Ramirez against Ryan Helsley. Cardinals made Helsley one of the few active Cherokee Nation members ever drafted. They picked him in the 5th round. Division II Northeastern State back in 2015. He shot up the minors. Ricky told you about the numbers. 27-9. There's a ground ball. Nice pick at first, Ravello. And I do believe he would have made that debut last year, but shut down. And fatigue. And it was June 10th, and then he made only one appearance the rest of the year. He is 6'1", and you talk about his lower half. I mean, it is a power lower half. He is put together. Big guy. Fastball and just missed 98, a little bit low.
He's listed, Dan, at 6'2", 220, but he does have a lot of his weight in his core and lower half. Very solid, strong, and again, power delivery.
Now, this is the kid that they signed, Victor Mesa. This is a prospect that everybody in baseball wanted, and he did elect to sign with the Marlins. And there was a lot of talk in baseball that no one would be able to sign for the amount of money that would be able to get him, because the amount of money that the Marlins had available. No one would be able to get him, but they got him. Victor Mesa. #1 international free agent in 2018. Signed for nearly $6 million. Largest bonus international free agency class. He was playing in Cuba's top professional league. He's been doing that, Ricky, since he was 16. He had 74 steals, more than 300 games. And he and his brother declared free agency after they were able to get out of Cuba. He's a center fielder. They really think that this young man is going to be a cornerstone of their rebuild. 2-2. And he struck him out. Or did he? No, they appeal. Everybody thought that was a strikeout. They appealed down to first, and Angel Hernandez makes sure that he's in midseason form, and everybody knows that he's in the house.
Mesa was walking back to the dugout. He knew that he swung or felt that he swung, but apparently not.
Angel, it's 11-1 in game 1 of the spring training games. Ground ball. We'll see that speed here as he gets down the line, and he's out at first. Nice work, Ryan Helsley. We head to the 9th. First pitch to start the 9th inning, swung on and missed. Dylan Carlson at the plate. Ben Meyer is the pitcher for Miami. 1 ball, 1 strike. Cardinals with the lead of 11-1. That's ripped down the right field line, but pulled foul. Well, Jeff Albert is the new hitting coach for the Cardinals, along with Mark Badasco, finished up last season for St. Louis, and those two have to be pleased with this start.
You bet. We'll get to know more about Jeff Albert as we go along. I know one of the things that we continue to hear from him is the fact that he wants to increase the contact. There's been plenty of that today.
Put a premium on that. Put the ball in play. Cut down on strikeouts. Pulled the string and changeup, strikeout. And the first out here in the top of the 9th. Tommy Edman will be the batter.
I'm still looking for that Max Schrock triple.
There's a base hit into center with 1 out here in the top of the 9th. Bench has been the story along with Miles Michaelis. A very good debut for him here in spring.
2 solid innings for Michaelis. Very typical. We also saw Tommy Lane strike out the side on the offensive side. A couple of home runs. Urias with a 3-run shot. And Max Schrock a 3-run shot of his own. And as I mentioned, a triple away from a cycle off the bench.
Max Schrock, and that's our Budweiser plays of the game. Here's Max Schrock right now. 1 out and a runner at first. They'll play behind him. Fouled back by Schrock. Well, you go 3 for 3 coming off the bench. Home run, double, single, drive in 4. You're going to get more playing time as spring training goes along.
3 hits for Tommy Edman off the bench. 3 hits for Lane Thomas off the bench.
February 23rd, our first spring training game. It seems like it starts earlier and earlier every year.
Well, it does. And there's some method to that, Danny, as I know you know, but just to let folks know about it who may not be aware, that the players wanted more days during the offseason a year ago, and one of the things that they agreed to is more off days during the season, but you had to start the games earlier in spring training to get everything in.
And a fly ball to left for out number 2. Reminder that we'll be on the air tomorrow again, noon Central Time, 1 o'clock here in Florida. Be on the main channel of Fox Sports Midwest. The Nationals will be here. The Cardinals and the Nationals tomorrow at noon.
Still an intriguing team, minus Bryce Harper.
No question. Matt Adams re-signing with the Washington Nationals, and Juan Soto coming back, finishing second in the Rookie of the Year. They've got Max Scherzer, Trevor Rosenthal signed a 2-year deal. Here's an 0-1 pitch. I mean, you can't come out and say that they haven't spent the money. They went out and got a big free agent pitcher that they spent a lot of money on.
Trey Turner, an exciting player.
Yep. And they have said publicly that they are not in the running for Bryce Harper. Now, they've said we'll still keep the door open, you know, slightly if it would happen. Never say never kind of thing. But they've got Ryan Zimmerman. They've got a very good third baseman in Rendon. I mean, you would have to think that they'd be right in the thick of things. I think the Phillies, especially if they get Harper, would be, and they've done a lot this offseason, would be a team that you'd look at in that division.
Mets are always an intriguing team to think about because I could see them going in two different directions. Their arms are so good, but they've just had a hard time being healthy.
Yeah. Remember the start that they had last year? Led that division for a brief bit and then fell apart. 2-2. And a strikeout sends us to the bottom of the ninth. Game 1 of 15 here at spring training. 20 hits for the Cardinals today. The pitching is only allowed 2. Cardinals with an 11-1 lead. The bottom of the ninth. Impressive pitching. You think about the starter today for the Cardinals. Miles Michaelis, Tommy Lane, the St. Louis native, struck out the side. Ryan Helsley, 2 power innings. And now Meisinger is in for St. Louis. And we've heard a lot about this young man, too. It'll be very tough for him to make the club, clearly, but does provide some insurance potentially in the minor league levels.
And he has some big league experience. He pitched for the Baltimore Orioles last year at the big league level, had 18 games. He went to Radford University, so he's a Highlander, and several of my family members graduated from Radford University, including my sister, so I'm very familiar with that school, which is not you think of necessarily as a baseball powerhouse, but he had a terrific career there, and he's getting a chance here in St. Louis.
Okay.
There's Dixon Machado.
What?
We're talking last night as we reviewed some of the game film from last year. As we always do the night before spring training. I know that you edit a lot of your top calls in. Some of your top work from last year. You like to bring that.
I'm not really listening to you, Danny. What do we do?
Well, you.
Oh, yeah.
In your edit bay in your basement.
Yeah.
Is you review most of the games from a year ago.
Yeah.
But then you have your top 20 of your top moments.
And
where
are you going with this, Danny?
Well, you were saying after we watched your top moments, yours on-air moments, and then you said these are my top 3 storylines of spring, and they were for you.
I did say it took a long way to get there, Dan, and as folks who've listened to us over the years know that some of what you say about me is true. And some of it's not, but I will say you're right about the storylines. The storylines to me are,
yes,
there's several of them. The fact that the Cardinals have these 2 dynamite new players. We didn't see either of them today, but we will, in Goldschmidt and Miller. And can they just kind of step in and produce? They're creating buzz in St. Louis. And the second storyline is Mike Shildt adding to that buzz. It's been very positive and upbeat, and players are responding to him. Fans are responding to him. And the third storyline to me is just the good young talent that the Cardinals have. Not just in the pitching staff, but the Harrison Baders and Adolis Garcia. Young players that are going to be a part of what's going on. So it's Are we ready to fly with the offseason additions? That's a kind of a cardinal phrase this year, ready to fly. And again, Schilt and the young arms especially will be following those storylines all year.
Your work in editing, though, was really good.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Deep in the hole, and they can't come up with it. Still nicely done as Garrett Cooper beats it out with 2 outs to extend the game.
That was good effort all the way around. Not able to get it at third. Deep in the hole. Long throw. And it wouldn't have been in time anyway. But Edman backing up third, showing off his arm a bit.
Here's Magneuris Sierra. Got to play in on the left side with Sierra. We always question, would he get to the point where he would be able to drive the ball a little bit more? So he just slapped the ball, kind of guided the ball. There it is, lazy fly ball into center, and the ball game comes to a close, and the Cardinals win their first here in spring training by the final of 11-1.
Simple summary of this game, Danny, is the Cardinals did everything right. They pitched well, they defended well, and boy did they swing the bat, especially off the bench.
Cardinals with 20 hits this afternoon. We'll wrap it up in a moment.